So in this session, I'm going to have a look at your part 2 of network architecture, the second activity. So if I go into my POE document, I will see that activity 2 says the following from part 2. Perform the following using the client computer. Okay, so all of this I'm going to do now on the client computer, which is Windows 10 computer. Remember that I said that if I go into my virtual computer here, and if I open up Hyper-V Manager, I will see all the computers that I have created here. So I should have a NWAR 5112 server. That's the machine that I was working on previously in my last video. And then I should install Windows 10, which I've done in a discussion previously as well. So now I'm going to click on that computer and I'm going to connect and start it. So on the client computer, I'm going to perform some tasks. But now also I'm going to open up the server computer as well. So I'm going to connect to my client computer, because if both computers are not connected to each other, I can't perform these activities for this exercise. So if I look here now, I'm going to log into my client computer. So this is my client computer in my virtual computer, which is Windows 10. Then I'm going to also go to Hyper-V. I can see this computer is running, and I'm going to click on my server and I'm going to connect and start the server computer as well. So I will have two virtual computers running, and then I'll just minimize the screen so that I can see them. So from here I can see there's my server that's running, and from here I can see there's my client that is running. I don't need that open. I'm just going to close that. So in the question now, what are they asking me to do in the question? Let me go and see. In the question, they say, perform the following on the client. Install and configure the client virtual machine. That, in other words, it simply means install Windows 10 operating system. Then they say, assign the client machine an appropriate static IP address in the same network as the server. Go and set the client's IP address. Next one. Check if the client machine is on the same network as the server. Join the client machine to the server. Test the client machine if it's joined, and then use one of the user accounts to log on to the domain. So here now, install and configure client machine. Okay, 2 marks is awarded. You need to show the name of the client machine as well. So there's my client machine and there's my server machine that I have in the background. So let me connect to the server machine as well. So there's 2 windows that I've got, and I can see there's the domain that I'm logging into. So the server machine was created in the last video. So let me just minimize that a little bit so I can see both of them. Right, so this window has got what? My server. It tells me on the top there what machine is there. All right, so I just powered it off. It didn't like that, so I'm just going to select any of those. And then okay, so let me go ahead now and ensure that I've prepared both the machines to be able to connect to each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here into my virtual computer, and I'm going to go to my Hyper-V Manager, and I'm going to check first, are these 2 computers physically connected on the same network? So how do I do that? I go to each of them and I put them on the same switch. I need to connect them to the same switch. How do I do that? I go to the virtual switch manager on the right-hand side here. I can see I've got a CNOS, I've got two CNOS switches, I've got a default switch. So I'm going to create now a new internal virtual switch. And this is which module? Network architecture. So NWAR switch. So I click on I type in NWAR switch. It's an internal switch, and I say OK. Now I'm going to ensure that both these computers are connected to that same switch. So I click on the client, and I go here to its settings. And then I click on the network adapter at the bottom, and I click on NWAR switch. And I say, OK. I do the same with the server. I click on my NWAR server. I go to its settings, network adapter, and then also I would select here NWAR switch. And I say, OK. Now, I've put both of them on the same network. OK? So both these computers are on the same network now. So it says that this one is paused for some, is that my server? Then this one is my Windows 10 client. Just going to restart this one. Now remember, the virtual computers, you can work from any lab, any computer that has an internet connection, because you're opening it up in your browser, okay? So you can perform these activities at any time. So this is my client now. In the client, I'm going to go to its network properties. I'm going to go to Ethernet, change adapter. I can go to the network and sharing center. Click on Ethernet. Details. It's currently doesn't have an IP address, so I'm going to click on properties. Click on IP version 4, properties, and then I'm going to set the IP address. So 192.168.10, because I use 10.1. So I can use .2 for the client, and then I can click on the subnet mask. The default gateway and then the DNS server is going to be that of the server's address. So I'm going to type in 192.168.10.1, and then it's the same for the DNS, 192.168.10.1. And I'm going to say OK. So now I've changed the IP address of my client. What did the question ask me to do? Let's just see. The question says install and configure the client virtual machine. What else do they need for the client virtual machine? Did they give me any other information? No. So what is the name of my client computer? Let me just see. I'm just going to check its computer name. So here, okay, let me just maximize this. I right click, I go to the system, and currently I can see the name of the computer here says desktop. Okay, so I'm going to change the name of this computer. So I want to change the name. I'm going to click on system information, and I'm going to click on change. Change the network, the name of the computer, and it's going to be Suben Win 10. So then I know this is my client computer. Okay, so I'm changing it to Suben Win 10, and then I say OK, and it's going to ask me to reboot. Restart. So I log in. And now I will go to the computer's properties. So right click, go to system. And I should be able to see in the system that, where's the name of the computer? System info. Okay, so here I can see that I've got Windows 10 is installed, and the computer name is changed to Windows Subain Windows 10. And then I'm also going to now open up the network properties. And under the network properties, I'm looking for Ethernet. I'm looking at the network and sharing center, Ethernet, and I'm looking for details, right? So now I'm going to take both these screenshots. I'll take the computer name. So I'm going to go back to my snipping manager, my snipping tool, say new. And now Ethernet, does it show that it is my computer? Let's just see. No, it's not showing the name of my computer. So can I get, let's just close this one. Server, did I close the client? Let's just see. Yeah, let me just connect to it again. Okay, so if I look at the question, let's see what it's asking for. Install and configure the client virtual machine. I'm going to take the picture of the system properties. Network architecture, activity 2. No, this is all old. So I'm going to use these to guide me as to which screenshots I need to take for activity 2. Install and configure the client machine. I'm going to take a picture of the system properties. So I'm going to close that, close this, and go to its properties. There's it here. So from my snipping tool, new snip, and I take a snip of the first one. So I go in here, install and configure Windows 10 client machine. It is done. Next one, static IP address information. So I need to go and get my IP address information, static IP address information. From here, I can open up a command prompt, and I can type ipconfig, enter. Okay. So here now it's going to show that IP address has been set, subnet mask is set, and then default gateway is set. Static IP address information. Okay. So all right. I can use this because it shows my name here, Subain, as the user, okay, that's logged on. So I'm going to take this screenshot. And then I'm going to paste it in here. And the next one says, check that the client machine is on the same network as the server. So from the client, I need to ping the server. So from the client, I'll say ping. The server's IP address is 192.168.10.1. Enter. Now it should show me reply. Can you see? It's showing me reply. If it shows request timed out, it means it's not working. Okay? So it must show reply from that. But here it's also saying destination host unreachable. So we'll go and check some settings on both the client and the server. So let me go to my server now. I'm going to check network and sharing center here. So right click on this one. Open network and sharing center. And I want to check that they are allowed to send messages on the network. So I go here to advanced sharing settings. And I check that network discovery is turned on. Can you see here it's turned off? So I need to turn this one on, and file and print sharing needs to also be turned on. I'll save the changes. Then let's see from the client now if it gives me the correct message. So I'm going to ping the server again. It's still saying destination host unreachable. Let me check the settings here, the network settings here on the client. So I'm going to check the settings, network connections, Ethernet, network and sharing center, change advanced sharing settings. See here, it's also turned off. Turn on network discovery and turn on file and print sharing. Okay, and I say save. And now let's try it again from the command prompt. Can I ping my server? It says it's getting a reply, ping statistics from 1. Let me just check my settings here on the server, Ethernet. My server is set to 24. Okay, so let me go and change this one here. One nine two one six eight 10. The server should be 1. And then this default gateway should also be 10 and 1. And then I can leave DNS as it is and say, okay. Close, close, go back to my client. And let's try it again. Can you see? This is the correct output that I'm looking for. All right. And I went through all the possible mistakes I could have made as well. These are all the different things you need to check. So once I've got the correct response, I'm going to take a screenshot. And there's the ping to check they're on the same network. Then it says join the client machine to the domain. My domain was called what? SubainN.com. Correct? Yes. Okay, so let's go to the client. So on the client now, I go to its properties. Can you see here? How did I get to the system properties again? I just right click on the start and I go to system. And then I went to system information. So under the system information, I can see it's currently part of a work group. I'm going to click change settings. You wanted to join a work group or domain. I'm going to click on network ID. This computer is part of a business network. Use it to connect to computers at work. Go next. My company uses a domain. Go next. You will need the following information: username, password, and domain name. Go next. Type your username and password for the domain account. It is administrator. The password is the password that I have created. And the domain is SubainN.com. Is that correct? Let's just go and see in the server. Where's my server? So in my server, I want to open up Server Manager. And on the Server Manager, I can check from Active Directory Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers, or Sites and Services, whichever one. Active Directory Users and Computers. SubainN.com is the name of my domain. Okay. So I will go back now to my client computer. SubainN.com. Go next. Type the name of the computer. Type the computer name and computer name domain. Computer domain name. So Windows cannot find the account in SubainN.com. Your computer and domain may be different from the user account. So computer name is SubainN. Computer domain is SubainN.com. So then it asks me for administrator passwords. I'll type administrator. And I'll type my password. And the domain is SubainN.com. Say OK. Add the following domain user account, username administrator, subain.com. Go next. What level of access do you want to grant Subain an administrator? Administrator privileges. Go next. And then finish. Say OK. It's going to restart. And I'm going to log in as administrator. And administrator, I'm logging into not Subain in administrator. Right, subainin.com administrator, and then my password. Administrator, and then okay, so I'm going to create a account in my server that I'm going to use to log on to the domain from here. So let me do that. So on my server, that's the client server. I'm going to go into the Subain in domain under users. I'm going to create a new user account. So Subain. So subain@subain.com. Okay. Right. Let me try on the client to log in with this user account. So subain@subain.com, and then sign in remotely. You need remote desktop services, or you need to be added to the group. Okay, so it says I don't have permission. So I'm going to give myself some permissions here. So here I'll go to this user and I'll add this user to a group. Add to group. And I'll search for admins, check name, administrators, and I'll say okay. So let's see if it's given me the permissions that I need now. Again, Subain. I'm just going to restart here. I'm going to say domain admins. So domain admins. And try to log in once more. Okay, so finally, so I needed to add the user to the domain admins group. And now I'll go to the system information. And you can see now the computer is part of the subain.com domain. So I can now go and take my screenshot. Right. So then it says also test that the client has joined the domain. You may use ping. So I can ping the domain. Test that the client has joined the domain. Let's see if I ping the domain, does it give me a reply? So command. And I'm going to ping subain.n.com. And you see, it's giving me a reply. I can then take a screenshot. And then I've pinged to the domain. And then it says log into this domain. All right, I've already logged into the domain. So it shows here as well that I've logged into the domain subain@subain.com, right? So it's already showing that I've logged into the domain here. But here as well, I can see that I am logged into the domain. Or even if I look at the user, that is information, right? Info on the person that's logged in. All right, so that was the second part of the part 2 from your POE document.